I could ask you questions.
And then you could ask me.
And then we could just let it take on a life of its own.
Or we could just leave.
We could get up and leave the room.
Boom, boom, ba, boom, boom, ba. Boom, 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 boom. So there's a song we have called Dani California, which I think is going to be the first single. And Dani California is a character. It was in the By the Way song.
I didn't realize it at the time, but when this funky groove came up, it struck me as a perfect place to actually tell a story. Like sometimes I think it's much more interesting to just tell the beginning of a story and not finish it. You know, in a song, it's like get it started and let it just go wherever it wants to go, wherever people want it to go. It's more interesting to not give a story a beginning, a middle, and an end in every song.
Right.
It's kind of confining.
Right.
Just leave it open.
Yeah.
Suggest. But with this one, I felt like this is going to be a cool story.
Right.
And I started writing. I was like, oh my God, this is about the girl that was in By the Way, Dani. And then I realized that Dani in By the Way was about the girl in Californication, the teenage bride with the baby inside. And so it, you know, it sort of revealed itself to me that it was, you know, it's been the same character, just kind of developing.
Well, I knew that she was from By the Way, but I didn't know she was from California.
Yeah, I didn't either until I took a look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I really like the way when John came in with that melody for the chorus. The way that it overlaps against the music is really different than...
It's different.
Different than like the way my brain would ever think of something overlapping with a piece of music.
Or Chad's for that matter.
Yeah, it's a real unique thing.
Yeah.
I've been listening to this, the first Wu-Tang album, End of the 36 Chambers, pretty much every day for the whole writing of the record. I was inspired by especially by the rhythms that the MCs were using in their raps. They were inspiring to me in terms of my guitar playing, and I was really inspired by the way that people like Jizza and Method Man and Raekwon and all those guys, they don't just go in a straight rhythm, straight according to how the drums are. They make up their own groove in the music, and I was really into the idea of a lot of rhythmic expression for this music. One night I was just sitting here, you know, doing my usual thing of, you know, I was playing along like either bass or guitar along with that record, and then I thought to myself, why don't we have a song with that drum beat, and I'll just make up some chords right now to fit into that drum beat, and so that was where those chords came from. And even though the chords were written in order just to put some chords to that basic drum beat that's all over that first Wu-Tang album of boom boom ch, boom 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 ch, boom boom ch, boom 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 ch. What ended up happening was not really that different from like Sweet Home Alabama or something. You know? Like, even though it was supposed to be this
I think
Wu-Tang
Wu-Tang
thing.
was very influenced by Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Running through the fields where all my tracks will be concealed because it's so white as snow. Like there's bound to be some snow to come and cover up those old tracks that you've made up.
Once again, it was John came up with all those guitar parts, those beautiful guitar parts.
That verse guitar part is insane.
That sort of thing where you're going like that kind of Jimi Hendrix like rhythm technique or whatever, but it had been done the way he did it a lot, and so doing it the way I did it on this song was just a different approach. So it doesn't sound like Jimi Hendrix, but in essence, it's not that far from home.
I taught John that lick, actually, so, and he took it from there, but it was, you know, it was the seed.
And then we built a song around it. We all started doing our thing. And
that's the cool thing about that song to me, is that John came in with, to the naked ear, what sounded like a very rhythmically complex piece of music. You know, almost like some kind of flamenco business. And like, how are you gonna work bass drums and vocals into something that's already so dense?
Right.
But we really all found quite quickly our place within that really busy canvas, you know?
Yeah.
That's where the song really gets written, you know, is when each guy like adds his own flavor to it, because in so many cases I have no idea what the actual groove's going to sound like, even though I have a guitar part, you know.
It feels very cleansing. It's a cleansing number.
What's it about?
It's about the repeated failure to start your life anew, you know, and about, you know, how difficult it can be to get rid of old ways of thinking and old destructive ideas that we become so attached to.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't think that we could actually go forward without, in some way, keeping hold of this old way of thinking.
Yeah.
But that really, once you get rid of all of those old ways of thinking, you kind of start off with the blank canvas. You know, how freeing that is, and how it really does allow you to open up and be a free man.
It's epic. It has just that big, huge outro, you know. I remember when it was almost funny in rehearsal when we were first doing it outro.
You were laughing out loud.
Well, it was hysterical.
How about Anthony when we first did it?
Because you would just say, oh yeah, oh now, oh yeah.
I still laugh whenever Anthony starts singing that, hey, ooh, yeah.
And we were doing it for like, 20 minutes.
We wouldn't stop doing it.
For hours. You were just like, oh yeah, oh now.
I was feeling it.
Yeah, you were feeling it. It was
I was
great,
feeling it,
but
and you
was
looked over at me and just started howling. You're like, oh my God, that guy's feeling it!
He just busted out with the extremely manly, like,
It was, Brad, that was like the first thing he did, too. Yeah, and I'm like, where the hell did that come from? Oh, yeah.
In Stadium Arcadium, I mean, being the title of the album, it has such a universal big feeling, and so music is a universal, beautiful thing. We're embodying and embracing all of it.
That's right.
And that's what we aspire to do, and that's a great title for our album.
Quite specifically, the imagery involved is that of a group of people out in the middle of nowhere listening to music together in the middle of the night, creating a light which is reflecting the sort of heavens above. Because that song is really about connecting to people by way of music for the sake of honoring the universe and feeling connected to the universe.
Cool, because that's how it makes me feel.
That's what it's about.
This is one of the few songs, ladies and gentlemen, that actually, I think, may have started out with my illustrious drum beat.
I walked into rehearsal out there in the San Fernando Valley, and John and Chad had arrived first.
I come in, I just happen to be the first one there that day. I sit down at the drums. Out of the blue, I just start playing this beat. John comes in. Hi, John. Picks up his guitar. Boom, 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 ding, boom, boom, bing.
The sound was so big, and sometimes Chad and John have this weird brotherly connection that's very strong.
Yeah.
You know, they can get inside of each other.
Yeah.
And I heard that happening, and I was like, wow.
Those chords and that guitar part in the verse, they couldn't have been more obvious to do over what he did from my standpoint. It seemed like I was just highlighting something that Chad had already created, you know.
You know, it had that sort of reverberating massiveness of the guitar, and I just knew it was a song. I was like, what you guys are playing at this moment is a song.
Yeah.
And no, there was no question that it wasn't going to be like, okay, let's go to work now.
Yeah.
That they had already gone to work.
I look at him after a little while, I go, that sounds like a song. He's like, yeah. I go, what is that? He goes, I don't know. And that's how it happens. And then take it from there. Next thing you know, Flea comes in, starts playing, and it's a beautiful process.
It's just one of those things with making music with people where you really start to sometimes get the feeling that the music was already there before you walked into the room, you know?
I think in that case it really was. Because you know what, when I came in, like usually I come in, I'll play and I'll like, whatever, just like kind of just go around the drums. And I remember that day I just came in, and I don't know why, I hadn't been like, hey, I got a great drum beat. I just came in and just that's the only thing I played, and I was probably there for like 3 minutes before John came in. So literally it was like that music was waiting for us just to come in and channel it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and that's the only thing that he played when he came out. He didn't go, wah, wah, he went boom, 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 boom. It was like,
I just walked and picked up the
it was
guitar
like
and started
someone
playing that
gave
part.
us a song. Someone literally gave us a song.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Wet Sand?
Wet Sand.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a beautiful song.
Is it?
This is one of my favorite songs on the record.
Top 5?
Top 5. Like if I'm gonna play songs for people, if I'm gonna pick 5 and
You
just
play
play
Wet
them like
Sand.
a selection of 5, I play Wet Sand every time.
Yeah.
And a few things stand out to me about it. One is just John came out in with all these beautiful chord progressions, and there was a lot of it, and it was all in these different pieces.
It was in pieces.
And then the first day we worked with Rick, or the second day or something,
Right.
he changed all the pieces around. He said, try this, try that, and it really worked.
That's right.
And I remember it was a real good way to open the pre-production process because you know, Rick's always telling us to do things, and we're like, what do you mean? No way, we're
You're
not gonna try
kidding.
that. And he goes,
What?
please just try everything. If you don't like it, we'll put it back. But he had us do all these things we never would have thought of, and it came out so great. You know, like all of those parts that John had come up with, it really was like, it became such a dynamic song, you know. And this is one song. Did John come up with the lyrics and just you perform in Wet Sand? Those weren't his words?
No, he came in with the chords at the end with the melody,
Right.
a vocal melody.
Oh,
And I,
okay.
when I went up to him and I was like, John, do you mind if I use your vocal melody? Because I love it and I really don't want to.
Right.
And he usually prefers me to go find my own.
Right.
And he was like, oh, okay, I guess if you want to use that melody, you can use that melody.
Yeah.
And then I was like, also, I heard a couple of words in there that you were mumbling, and I kind of liked them. And he's like, oh, no, it was gibberish.
Yeah.
I was like, I know, but I heard something that sounded cool to me. And he was like, no, really, I was just making up sounds and blah, blah, blah.
I wasn't going to tell him what I was saying when I was singing him the melody of that section. I didn't want him to use my words, but he really wanted to know. What did he say? What did he say?
And I was like, did you say wet sand? He's like, yeah, I think I said wet sand. Wet sand was, part of the thing.
So he forced me to say what I was actually saying, and then he ended up using that. And then I almost was like, well, I got a whole other page of lyrics here if you want to see, but I let it alone. I just let him do his thing with it.
I just took wet sand, those 2 words, and went back, sort of worked backwards through the song.
I get the feeling, and this is an interesting thing, because I'm going to say what the lyrics make me feel, and it's probably not what they're about at all, because I don't know the lyrics. I don't even know all the words, because it's always like I pick them up until I can see the lyrics and read them. I don't know them. Like I just go on little pieces that I hear here and there, But the feeling that I get from it is that it's a love song, but it's a special love song because it's not just about loving somebody and how great love is. It's about the darkness of love too, and the lightness, and it's all together, and you love it all, and that's the biggest love that there is, because you're really loving the things that you don't like too.
Oh yeah.
And that's the feeling that I get from it. That's why, and that's so big to me. That's like the most universal thing.
Yeah, that's the theme of the whole record to me.
To me too. What's Charlie about?
Lyrically?
Yeah.
The idea that came to me for Charlie was your imagination. Charlie is your imagination. It's like your imaginary thought process, your imaginary friend, your imaginary kind of, your sort of traveling muse / sprite / that little twinkle that gets you thinking and getting crazy ideas and good ideas and bad ideas. And but as I was writing it, it seemed like it began to mean more than just one thing, which I actually preferred. I didn't want it just to mean your imagination. I wanted it to mean as many things as possible. Like it could be your girl, it could be your drug, it could be whatever. Just kind of an all-purpose thing. But to me, it started off meaning your imagination. Yeah.
Charlie's pretty funky, man. It's one of our funkier numbers.
Yeah.
I must say.
Yeah, it's a funky one. I was happy because I'd made a guitar part that was in a different time signature than what the than what the bass and drums were in. Yeah. Every time I do a little something like that, it always feels like, oh, cool, like
I got one in there.
Yeah. Like
when I heard that groove, it was a deeper and blacker kind of a funk feel, and it was probably my favorite instrumental track. Of any, that and Hey were my favorite things to listen to with no lyrics at all. It rocked me so hard.
Yeah.
I would actually pull up next to people in cafes and
crank it up,
just with no vocals on it, just the groove.
Yeah, they're good grooves.
Yeah.
Desecration Smile, a little number that has also been performed live way before we started even tracking this record.
When it had a different chorus.
It had a completely different chorus.
That was not very good.
It wasn't as good.
A very confusing chorus.
It was a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was Rick or somebody, I don't know who's thought that, yeah, I like that part, but I don't know about the chorus kind of thing. Somehow that came...
Rick, I guess, didn't like it, because Rick had been there
he was
at
at
the
the
Bridge
Bridge
School
School
benefit, and he said that song is incredible. When you guys go into the verse of that, it's amazing. He said Paul McCartney was watching from the side, and he saw Paul like nodding his head to it or saying something like, that was a great change there or something, and Rick was so excited, but he said the chorus of that song really wasn't taking off.
And it wasn't as good as the verse.
It wasn't as good as the verse,
yeah.
and we wanted one that was, if anything, better than the verse, or at least uplifting from the verse.
That was a song that we knew had something to offer big time.
Yeah.
But we had not found the puzzle. Yeah. We had not solved the puzzle until John brought in the new chorus.
You came in with
that, and it was good. It still had I remember there was a certain quality in the other chorus, that it went from major to minor when it went from the chorus back into the verse, and so I think I made even more of that, because I made a chorus that had a really major key feel, and then back into the dark verse and stuff.
I don't know the lyrics. I know bits of the lyrics, but it really feels like the dark side of love, like
it is.
Just the dark side of love that you gotta love, because it's life. This is about a specific situation.
Well, you know, all of the love songs from my point of view, and this were pretty much written about Heather.
Right.
I mean, they're either written about Heather or they're written about previous relationships gone awry, and just kind of, you know, not analyzing why these things have gone bad, but just kind of more listening to music and channeling, you know, thoughts and images and ideas of what happened. So it's not really like psychoanalysis, but just kind of channel some shit.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
No, that song works out.
Yeah.
That song is coming from a real ass place.
Yeah.
And it just worked out. To me, it haunts the hell out of me.
Right.
It's got a spell. You know, and I think it's a chordal thing.
Yeah.
There's some notes in those chords that just kind of go whoosh.
Yeah.
And then I feel like, what's happening?
I think it's everything, you know. I think like the chords are so beautiful. I feel like I love the way that the bass and the guitar hook up in that song. It has a real, like it sounds a little woodsy to me, a little woody, like a natural tree.
When you pull out of the intro? When it pulls out of the intro and you just start driving?
Yeah, it's a real nice feel.
I am jumping in that vehicle with you guys at that point.
Yeah, it's good. Hey.
Top 5.
My top 5 for sure. It's one of my. I love the groove of Hey. I love the feeling of Hey. I love everything about Hey. It's such a good magical feeling on that song. Like I feel like we just tapped into a real deep groove together on that.
Yeah, Rick
he loved him. Everybody goes, I hope
Rick
that's
was
you.
really excited. It was another one of these ones where it really had a different feeling to it than any of the other songs had. Rick was like, I like that. It's light and jazzy.
And so that was, we called it light and jazzy.
That was the working title, light and jazzy.
Yeah, and he would show up to rehearsal, and we'd get there and jam and stuff, and then he would show up. And I remember him coming in going, I was walking in, because there's 2 rehearsal places. There's one big room where we're in, and there's another room which is next door, and he was walking out in, and you could hear the music faintly, and he was digging it and going, I hope that's coming out of the Chili Pepper room.
He really didn't know if it was us or not. He said usually he knows what's us and what's another band. He was like, I hope that's them. And
I really like that. It's light and jazzy.
It's one of those songs that takes you away, and it takes you to an emotional place that is just powerful and beautiful and real and not sugar-coated.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, you know, it's not one of those things that gives you any kind of false hope. It just kind of feels real and beautiful and powerful.
When I came up with the bass lines for Hey, I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, I just came up with the best bass line I've ever come up with in my entire life. I can't wait to get to rehearsal and play it for those guys. And I was so excited driving. I was like, oh God, I gotta play this thing with these guys. I was so excited. Like I came in like trying to become, I got this thing, I like it.
Yeah, just a little thing I came up with.
But I was really excited.
Hey guys, you want to hear this thing? It's not much, but
it's like, you guys might like it. I was so excited about it, and I'm so happy that you guys loved it, because I was really, I always have this fear, God, they might not like it, you know.
Right.
And I was so happy that you guys liked it, and that and I was playing it, just me and Chad were playing it, and John was like kind of getting his guitar out and not really, he was kind of like nodding his head a little bit, but he wasn't really like going wow or anything. He wasn't saying anything. And then he just picked up his guitar, strapped on, and just started, I think at the White Falcon.
Hit some chords.
Put it in the White Falcon and just started wailing the perfect part for it.
One of my favorite things in that song is the interaction between the drums and the lead guitar, because it had so much space in it. That bass part has so much space. So when you know, Chad came in with the groove that he came in with, it wasn't what Flea was expecting.
I have discovered that, much to my amazement, it is not a song for everyone. I think you have to be somewhat of a seasoned veterano of experience to get on the train of Hey.
You tell me youngsters don't like Hey?
I'm not saying, I'm saying that I've heard a couple of youngsters that didn't dislike Hey, but they didn't really get it.
Wow.
Yeah, I think you have to have been around the block a certain amount of times.
Wow.
I could be wrong.
I think that's one of the partyingest songs you've ever done.
Tell me, baby?
Yeah, it just parties like crazy.
Came about from a jam, Flea playing one of his awesome slap bass lines.
What gets me in that song is the chorus. You know, we all, between the chords and the words and the notes and the tones and the beats, it feels real. Like you really feel the sensation of a person going through something.
Yeah.
Tell Me Baby is kind of about that river of humans that flow into Hollywood.
Yeah.
They flow from Nebraska, they flow from Tallahassee, they flow from New York, and there's this constant, you know, wild influx of hopes and dreams and desires and, you know, plans and, you know, aspirations for actors and singers and dancers and magicians, and, you know, they all want to come and get a taste of what it is to make it, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah.
We get their energy. This town gets all that crazy kind of hopeful, wishful energy, but we also get the broken dreams of, like, you know, the reality that doesn't always work out so well.
And we also get the sadness of people like just really barking up the wrong tree, like not like trying to improve themselves as artists, but trying to get close to fame, and the ugliness of the power and fame being like this god to people, where they try to get next to it or be a part of it or do anything they can. Like that, to them, that's the whole, their light in life is to how intimate they can be with power and fame, and how much they can rub about it or get a little in their pocket or whatever.
So that can be a lonely place to find yourself.
Yeah.
And that song's a little bit about the loneliness of a girl who just, you know, came searching for something that she really didn't ever need or want in the first place.
Cool.
Little Wizard of Oz, 2006.
Yeah. Slow Cheetah, my favorite song on the whole record.
Do you like the song?
Huh?
Do you like this one?
You know about my perfect 10, right?
It's a perfect 10, yeah.
One of the things that I really like about it is that it's slow enough that you can really hear the words. And I think that's one of the things that I really like about it, because you really feel the story of the song. It's a little bit more literal lyrically. Is it a little bit more literal?
I mean,
or maybe just because you can hear them real clearly.
I think it's because you can hear them. I mean, it's a pretty big metaphor in the chorus.
Yeah, but it's such a beautiful metaphor. Like when it hit me, what it was, it's so beautiful to me, because there's nothing I love more than slowing down. Like everything's so fast and my mind goes so fast. When I slow down, I get so happy. And the image of something that's so fast and powerful. I just have the image of this slow motion cheetah, like running through the Serengeti, like, but just in its full stride, like it would go with its muscles rippling and its beautiful coat, but so slow, like in slow-mo, but not slowed down by a film. Like it's just doing it in this magic slowness, and it's an incredible image. Yeah,
I'm so happy that it's a perfect 10 for you. That makes me like it even more. And, you know, it was sort of an imperfect 8 for me. And you're feeling so connected to it, you know, makes me see more beauty in it, I guess.
I love it.
Some days it's effing hard to concentrate, brah.
Yeah.
I certainly liked this song from moment one when it got going at rehearsal. That was one of those songs where I was very grateful that day, because not only did lyrics start to come into my head, but rhythms and, you know, patterns, vocal patterns started emerging for me really on the spot. It's really about, kind of about slowing down again and just, you know, finding what really matters at the end of the day.
Can't wait to agree with Big Sur.
Did you? It made a lot of sense to me immediately. You know, it sounded like a very sensible idea to play those notes one after the other.
You know, when I was actually really trying to imitate John's guitar playing with that bass line.
Oh, yeah?
Started doing that.
Interesting.
He had said that he had written that to write something in the style of John. I'm sure he was saying the same thing.
He was thinking about you when he wrote it?
You know, because ever since like Blood Sugar Time, I'm always like, I guess it was inspired by Eric Avery from Jane's Addiction originally, where you just have two notes that are far away from each other, like. And so he was writing a bass line like in that kind of style that I'd made a whole sort of guitar style out of.
I remember I was sitting in my bedroom, like, and I came up with those series of bass lines, and I came running into the kitchen. It was Thanksgiving Day, and my sister and Gavin were making Christmas dinner. And I was like, and Gavin was like, you were supposed to put the potatoes on or something. And I was like, but just listen to this, You gotta hear this. I couldn't potatoes. I just can't with this. You gotta hear it. And I tried to do that thing where you put the bass neck up.
In the ear?
And he was like, just didn't want to hear it. All he could think about was the fucking potatoes. And I was like, Jesus Christ, fuck the potatoes. Yeah, anyways.
So did you end up having the potatoes?
The potatoes ended up being good.
Come On Girl is another one that I wrote at my girlfriend's apartment.
Often when he comes up with a part and he does have an idea for what rhythmically he wants it to do, and he will tell me, you know, it's like, I remember playing along with you, and he was saying that to me, you know, do that with me.
You know, it was also just part of my concept for this album, just like for Dani California was another one that I just wanted to have, I didn't want to necessarily like have songs that were just heavy metal songs the whole way through or whatever, but I wanted to have a certain amount of songs that had choruses that were just heavy metal, you know, heavy metal riffs, you know, and so that was another one where we did that. The guitar solo section of that one is something I'm proud of. We did
the backwards.
We did backwards filtered reverb on the guitar, and it's all technical stuff you people
Go
don't
figure that
understand.
one out, kids.
John came up with all those parts, those Come On Girl parts. It's hard as hell to play on the bass, that song.
Is it?
It's the biggest challenge. I'm up to the task, though.
Wow. I didn't know it was so hard to play.
It's just hard and fast. Like, it sounds like a pick, but it's just really hard.
Ooh.
What is that song lyrics about that you wrote?
Well, they're pretty abstract and kind of just image-oriented in the verse, because that was one of those things where you guys came up with this rather non-traditional and cosmic time signature thing. You know, I don't know if it's in a weird time signature, but just...
It's intricate.
It's intricate. It's intricate, and the pattern is you know, it doesn't always repeat perfectly, and you know, it's how you guys write, which is cool. And so what I came up with was just a melody and a vocal rhythm that sort of worked with the crazy guitar patterns that were happening in the verse, and I didn't have a lyrical idea. And so when it came time to writing lyrics, it was one of those things where I have to find words that fit into the rhythms.
Right.
Which is a fun way to write.
So the rhythms really dictated the words.
The rhythms dictated the words.
Right.
And it's kind of an exercise or an experimental way of writing, because sometimes you end up getting some really cool ideas that you wouldn't have come up with if you were thinking, okay, this song is about her, or this song is about that.
Yeah.
You know, it sort of reveals itself to you, and like these, you're like, oh, I see what this is trying to say. Because you're coming from a different angle. Readymade, I'm sure that this song is closer to the other three hearts in this band than my own. This groove is more, I feel like it's coming from that place that I never quite totally felt a part of.
Right.
And I really just was doing my best to come up with something.
Right, because I was surprised I dig the song. I think it's a warm, rocking song. But it's also not my nature either. It's a real Chad and John nature song.
That's what it is.
One of my favorite numbers.
I wrote that one on bass.
Good?
Yeah. On this album, I got better at playing bass with my fingers. Usually I would just play with a pick. And the part in the verse of that, I wrote it on bass, just sitting right over there. And
John just came in with just the heaviest riff and was just so great.
And then the chorus came from a face-off.
Right.
And my friend Johnny Ramone had died just right as we were starting to write this record, And so he was on my mind a lot. I think a big part of my intention to have those sort of heavy metal things at choruses, the idea wasn't exactly that it would be heavy metal, but more so that things would be based on the basic like power chord shape rather than which most of the Ramones music is based on, rather than rather than interesting chords and stuff. I wanted to just get good progressions and good rhythms.
I think it's a really nice flavor to have on the album. It's like really heavy, and when Flea comes in with the bass and John's guitars come in, like, and it's a big swell, and you just know something really exciting is going to happen. It's really a good sounding. I think it's a good heavy song.
Yeah, you got to get some good heavy stuff in there.
Yeah. So don't tell us we're fucking going soft on you, fucks.
She Looks to Me.
Yeah, what do you think about that song?
I love that song.
You do?
Yeah, and it's not a song that I initially thought was going to be that good. When we started, like, I liked it, but I thought, oh, it's kind of, doesn't really have that unique of a thing to it. It
wasn't that unique.
Yeah, it just sounded kind of regular. And really, took on a color of its own, you know? When the vocals were done and everything, I realized it was great. Yeah,
it has a spirit.
Yeah.
It has a unique spirit in and amongst the other songs.
Yeah.
There's an emotion that it speaks to which is different than all the other ones.
Yeah. The whole, I don't know. I always, like, with the lyrics, I just pick up little pieces here and there.
What did you pick up?
What?
What'd you pick up?
Well, the poor part, lost in the valley without my horses. No one can tell me what my remorse is.
Yeah.
It's a great lyric.
Oh,
I love
good.
that lyric.
Thank
It's
you.
very powerful. Yeah.
Because when you got your remorse, other people really can't tell you about it.
Yeah.
That's your own damn remorse.
Yeah, geez.
Oof.
It's like someone telling you to smile when you don't feel like smiling.
Exactly.
Yeah. Remember when the bridge was the chorus and the chorus didn't exist?
What?
Yeah. Remember when
Yes.
The bridge used to be the chorus, and then the bridge became the bridge.
Right.
Then the chorus became the bridge, and we wrote a new chorus.
Was it a face-off?
The bridge was a face-off. With the first chorus was a face-off. And
Did you come up with the bridge?
Yes. But then the bridge, we decided it wasn't really a chorus, and we made it the bridge. And then Johnny came up with a chorus, with the chorus.
Right.
Yeah.
And later, the modulating chorus.
Yes.
The outro is another thing that has to do with the movement that can be created with a modular synthesizer. I wanted to have a lot of, like I said, just a lot of movement on this recording. I was inspired by people like Brian Eno and people like Jimi Hendrix who didn't just stop at just having at just playing their drums and guitars and bass and everything, but actually tried to turn things into a sonic landscape and actually tried to make it interesting from a sonic standpoint as well as from a playing standpoint. And that outro is another one of the sections that I'm proud of just because it has this very slow, mesmerizing movement to it that for me just resonates really well in my head and makes me feel like I'm looking at the ocean or something. You got anything about that one?
Nope.
21st century.
Got a very special place in my heart, my friend.
It's a good jam.
I think I dial into the emotion of this song in a different way. Like, first of all, when you started playing that bass line, I was thrilled. It struck me like good music from the early 80s, like Psycho Killer or, something good from Devo. Like that real classic, simple, powerful, stark, good, sort of new wave type something or other. It's a real sense of hope, that song, because it's about, this is an absolutely chaotic century to make any sense out of. You look around and you're like, what the hell is going on here? The ice caps are melting. We're starting wars that don't need to be started. The birds have flus. There's just like all this madness, like, what the hell has happened here? And then you realize, oh, there got to be a reason for this. It's all to get us to the next place.
Even though I don't know exactly what the words are, that's exactly what they make me think about when I hear them.
Yeah.
Just that we're living in a crazy time. There's got to be some reason for this.
Oh, yeah.
And let's go forward with a positive attitude.
Make you feel better.
Make you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a song that I initially did not connect with at all, and
No,
now
you
I
didn't.
love.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. And I didn't love it until the other night when I heard the mix.
Whew. By the way, not to toot my own horn, because I'm not that flexible, but I knew that this song would not make sense to anyone until it was mixed.
Right.
I just could tell. I knew the parts. I knew how it was supposed to sound.
Right.
And the mix was so unflattering.
Right.
You know, it needed a makeover.
Right.
Just, you know, lyrically, the feeling behind this is that, you know, we're in this life, we're given some gifts that just can't be taken away.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have temporary gifts, they get taken away.
Yeah.
You know, you meet somebody, they're a good person in your life. It's like, wow, what a gift.
Yeah.
5 years later, you don't even know them.
Right.
But then there are gifts that you get that are yours for life.
Right.
Who you are, the fact that you play music, that you'll always play music, your daughter.
Yeah.
You know, there are things that just, that's yours for life.
Yeah.
And as part of the gift of being a musician, you have the gift of making people feel better. All day long, every day, somewhere in this world, you're making people feel better.
It's our duty.
Yeah, so we get to connect.
Yeah.
And then do our thing, and it's a win-win.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah.
We're very lucky.
That's remarkable.
She's only 18, or sounds funkadelic-ish to me.
Yeah, we had this big chalkboard where we wrote down the names of the songs as we were names of little grooves or names of songs that we wanted to remember, and we were trying to think what would be the name for that one. And Chad and Anthony and I think we're looking at each other, and I was like, well, I think it sounds pretty funkadelic-ish to me.
That's good.
And what I meant by that was that we would call it Funkadelic or something. And Anthony said Funkadelic-ish to me. And Funkadelic-ish to me ended up being the working title for that one until it was recrowned. She's only 18.
It's usually when Anthony gets his head around the lyrics and stuff is when the working titles kind of change.
I also remember this song had a completely different chorus.
What was the old chorus?
It was this totally phased out sounding thing. It was all phasey.
Right. It was like, it was some wild chord progression John came up with.
Hazy, phasey.
Yeah. I can't remember. I can hardly remember it. I can't remember what it was.
It was not as good as what it is now.
Was it? Yeah, then John came up with that, like, just real, that big, bold-ass chorus that it is now.
Yeah.
That real rockin' thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I will also go on record as saying it's probably my favorite guitar solo on the record.
It's a great fucking guitar solo.
It elevates me. When I listen to it, I'll be like, here.
Yeah.
And then I hear that solo.
Yeah.
And I'm up here.
Yeah, it's a real natural sounding solo.
It lifts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great solo. That's a funky ass groove.
Ooh, it's funky.
Yeah. That's just some cold funky shit right
Cold.
there.
And with the kind of open, beautiful, sentimental chorus.
Yeah.
We got the great Billy Preston to play clavinet on it, which is a very funky instrument, and a very funky man to play it.
Crazy exciting.
What a classic hero he is.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, he's really in ill health.
He's ill.
And literally got out of bed, played it, and got back in bed.
That's right.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Sometimes when you're a funky keyboard player, you got to get out of your hospital bed, go rock the keys, and then go back to bed.
Yeah. Born to funk.
Yeah.
The guy's born to funk.
Yep. God bless him.
It's a particular brand of funk, that one. Flea and I were kind of reminded of some of the stuff on America Eats Its Young, which is a funkadelic album that's kind of, it's got a lot of funk that's kind of this loose kind of funk, and that's how I think of that particular brand of funk, is this kind of loose funk.
I remember there was some concern along the way. You wanted it to be as hard. You wanted it to be this hard, grinding, stomping, thick, powerful funk.
But it did.
It did, but there was a moment when you were,
I was concerned.
You thought we lost the way.
Yeah, I didn't think that we had it, but once again, we ended up using the rehearsal take.
Aha.
Or not the rehearsal take, but I'm not sure, but it was a very early take that we weren't using, and we were going for it, and it was getting too smooth for me. You know?
Yeah.
And I thought that it needed that jagged funk, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which it has, and it feels so good when it goes in and out of the chorus because it has that dynamic. I think, you know.
It's dynamic.
Yeah. I always think about, like with the lyrics, not that once again, I have no idea what's going on.
Thank goodness.
But I always think about that movie Wonderland, you know, about the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not so far off. Uh-huh. That's not so far off. I mean, there's a couple of songs on this record that sort of share slightly common ground lyrically. And this one is a little bit, it's about our town and the kind of madness that goes on in this town with show business and the kind of expectations and the seedy underbelly and also the creative side and the magical side and then the commercial side and also like this big weird animal called show business, which is sometimes wonderful and exciting and thrilling and vibrant and just wow. And other times it's just so low and lifeless and ugh.
Yeah.
And so it kind of speaks to that, like what this town is made of, and then you know that in the chorus it's kind of like, you know, this character is so beautiful and perfect to begin with, but she sort of feels like the need to be validated by that world. Yeah. And really, you know, she's already been validated by the big amigo in the sky.
Yeah. So much I started on this couch right here.
Did it?
Yes.
We're sitting on So Much I.
We're sitting right on this couch. I should just write So Much I on it.
This should be forevermore known as the So Much I couch.
This is the couch of So Much I birth.
So Much I really, like, for me was reminding me from the second we did it of my friend Guy Picciotto from Fugazi. It wasn't my idea that we did anything like that because I didn't even have anything to do with writing the song. Flea, it was something Flea came in with. But Anthony started immediately singing something that reminded me of Guy, and I started thinking of Guy's guitar playing and stuff like that. And for me, it ended up being like kind of a tribute to him, even though I'm the only one who was actually thinking about him.
It reminds me of the Minutemen in the verse, which is, you know, something that makes me feel good and proud that we can somehow touch, evoke, and or glimpse the spirit of the Minutemen. You know,
I never thought of it. That's really good.
That kind of driving, you know, we're a group of guys driving this damn song around. Yeah.
It's one of our most rockin' songs.
Yeah, it moves.
It's rockin'.
It moves.
It's jammin'.
Yep, we need that.
Yeah.
As in part of the repertoire, we need that sort of, that motion, that locomotion.
It reminds me, the vocal in the chorus reminds me of a blonde redhead. That's what it makes me think of.
What are you calling the chorus?
So much, It sounds like the guy, the Italian guy going, so much,
I hear that. I hear that. I also hear some Fugazi. A little Guy, maybe.
Yeah. Well, the guitar part in the verse that John plays is very kind of D-Boone-esque. Because you're thinking of the one he goes, yeah. I guess the bass line's kind of Mike Waddy, too. It's a burning number.
Hump de whip?
Hump de Bump.
You can't call a song Hump de Bump.
Well, this song, which is actually being mixed as we speak.
Is it French? What is that? Hump de Bump?
No, it's a Cameroonese. Yeah. It started with a groove that I would never remembered, except you were like, don't forget that groove.
Oh, that started off as 40 Detectives.
Because I remember it was a long time ago. We were rehearsing, like way before we started.
SIR Studios.
What were we rehearsing for?
We were rehearsing for something.
It was like way before we started writing the record.
We weren't writing the record.
Yeah, we were like getting ready to do a gig or a tour or something.
You were jamming, you came up with those chords, it sounded funky and fresh. It reminded me of...
Just yelling by myself.
Yeah, on stage.
Yeah, right.
And then it reminded me of American Ghost Dance, but a new take on that.
Yeah, well, same rhythm as Ghost Dance.
Yeah, same rhythm, but different chords and different spirit. And I just thought, you know, wow, those rhythms are worth using one more time.
Yeah.
And then you couldn't remember. We got back into songwriting mode, and I was like, how about that jam that we played at SIR?
I said, you recorded it on your phone. Let me hear it.
Yeah, and then the phone machine erases everything. But, this is a song that that I was not pushing for to make the record, because I just had a few other songs that I felt more emotionally connected to.
Yeah.
which are now on the cutting room floor.
Right.
But after speaking to Rick today, he thinks that the song has become a very important number on the record.
Yeah, well, I also feel that way, and I've always felt that way. And I always felt like I was the only one that felt that way.
You were.
And it caused me great fear.
Fear and anxiety.
Fear and anxiety, like, how could they not love that one? This is one of the best songs. Because I think that it really parties. It's just so funky. You know, the vocals are funky, the jams are funky. I'm really excited about the horns on it, you know. I hope that they really sound like they get mixed like the James Brown horn section when it gets mixed, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm
excited about the whole thing. I just think it slams.
Yeah. I'm not mad at it.
God, you still don't love it.
I haven't heard it mixed.
Jesus Christ. Because to me, it's like this is one of the greatest. I just love it.
Yeah,
Not just because I got to play horns on it, but I just fucking love it.
Animal Bar, do you even know what that means?
Well, isn't it about animals that need some water?
If we are animals, then yes. But it's more about the life cycle. And there is actually a bar called the Animal Bar, and it's in northern Australia. And it's a tiny one-road dirt town where they don't get rain for 10 months. And at the end of that 10-month period, they're basically, everybody in the town is on the verge of death because there's been no fucking rain. And then like the first drops of rain start to fall, and it really does, you know, kind of rebirth you. And it sort of gives you the cleansing, and it just comes and washes every single thing away.
It's a great symbol, you know. I mean, not just the water, but the birth and rebirth and the expansion and contraction of the world.
Yeah, it's an expansion contraction thing.
What was that inspired by? What would you say? Like,
well, I guess Flea was originally calling it Noi,
right.
And that was what he was inspired by to come up with his bass line was the German group Noi.
Well, I have to say that the bridge, just selfishly as a bass player, even though I liked Hey so much, is my favorite bass line I ever played. I'm really proud of that bass line. It's very subtle. You don't even really notice it, but it's.
I notice it.
But it has a nice effect.
It gets to me.
All the Noi songs, they all have this rhythm, boom, boom, pop, boom, 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 pop, boom, 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 pop, boom, 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 pop. So is that basically what you play on it? I mean, I know.
I'm not doing as much, but yeah.
But something along those lines, and that was what Flea was hoping for when he came up with his bass line to it. But I just saw it as a canvas, just to do something different.
It's an interesting groove.
Yeah.
That's something when we started playing it, we played it for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Just the first groove over and over again.
Is it can-esque?
Yeah, kind of can-ish, Noi, kind of Noi-ish, that kind of hypnotic, pulsing, moving thing, like a simple thing that keeps moving, but really, you know, when played with the right like-minded comrades, really creates a hypnotic spell that's just a great feeling.
Yeah, I certainly love it.
We believe?
Wiziv Believe?
Did we used to call that Failafunk? Is that what we called it?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
I remember the jam.
You do?
It came from a jam, and it was one of the very first jams.
Let There Be Jam?
And I might have been playing the bass line for it at home, actually. But I didn't, like, present it. But I think it was, like, one of those things where it was, like, I had learned something about some little simple rule about theory from one of my theory books. And it was that rule that I was just playing a very simple version of it in the bass line. Some little thing. But
it always sounded like Failafunk to me.
Yeah, it was very African feeling.
It felt like an African feel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very African feeling. And what are you singing about? Well, I'm singing more about a feeling than an idea. It's kind of a dream. The whole lyric is kind of a dream, but it's kind of a dream that takes place 3,000 years ago. Right.
You know, so it's not time specific. It's kind of about time travel and just going back to a different time and place, but being in a dream, not being in reality 3,000 years ago, but being in a dream 3,000 years ago. And that's kind of what the lyrics are about. But you know, the we believe concept is just the importance of having belief and having faith and you know, believing in whatever it is that you want to believe in. Just the power that comes from believing. The shortest song title of all time for the Red Hots?
It's a short song.
It's a tiny little number. I'm glad If is on our record.
Me too. I'd be bummed if it wasn't.
I would be bummed.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where I feel like it got its inspiration, and I don't really know because I didn't get the ball rolling. But I feel like it came out of our foray into folk music.
Flea had brought that in, and it was kind of, even though it was kind of folky, it's ended up being one of my favorite things on the record, and it really serves a wonderful place on the record because there is nothing else that's anything like it.
You know, when I wrote those parts, I was just sitting right on this couch.
All that Fairport convention that was going around there for a while.
Yeah.
Energetically, it just seems to be coming from that kind of a place.
It could be. I mean, it's from everything. I was also like listening to like a lot of Neil. You know, which is acoustic-y, but it doesn't really sound like that either.
Does not sound like Neil.
Yeah, but that's really what I was listening to
about Neil Diamond.
A lot of at the time.
For me, just purely listening to just the bass and the vocal, it was reminding me of like some of the mellower Zeppelin things or whatever. That was my reference point for it. I'm certainly not comparing it to Led Zeppelin. I'm just saying like that's what it felt like to me, was that kind of like mellow, folky feeling that's still somehow like based in a kind of strength that not all folk music has.
I just remember sitting down there and writing it and thinking I was onto something good.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you have a knack of coming up with kind of esoteric, bass movements that grow into something, but you're not afraid to sit down and write some avant-garde shit on the bass and allow that to become a song in the kind of jazz tradition,
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it was up to me, we'd probably never have a hit song. You know what I mean? Because I don't usually come up with the songs that are real popular hit songs. I mean, in terms of, the music that are initiated by the bass. I mean, that's more you and John, And if it was up to me, we'd have a bunch of B-sides and art songs,
Right, you give us our unsuccessful side.
Yeah, I'm responsible for the part that no one cares about.
No, my God.
Yeah.
No, we'd be nothing without the part that no one cares about.
Do you see the canyons of Fifth Avenue?
I do.
That's so nice.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's really about the simple pleasures of, loving somebody and going on a walk with them, and it doesn't get much better.
Yeah.
You can try to make it better, but you won't really get any better.
Yeah.
Turn It Again.
Turn It Again is one of probably, I think, the only song on the album that the whole music is all a jam.
We definitely have had a few things, where when we're jamming, we can actually make it sound something like a song, and that was the case with that song. The verse and the chorus are about as different of two parts from each other as could be, but they were made up in the same jam, and Anthony was part of that jam, and he was doing some really inspiring screaming and yelling and stuff.
Yeah, he was getting very excited.
It definitely gives opportunity to John's recent willingness to express that side of his guitar playing.
Right.
For so long he's been the less is more guy.
Yeah.
And he's wildly efficient and artistic with his less is more approach to guitar playing.
Yeah.
Like you can hear 10 times more than what he's actually playing because of what he's playing.
Yeah.
But on this record, he decided that I'm just going to let it all hang out.
I'm just going to rock like a maniac.
We have a whole 24-track machine just for my overdubs, and I think on that outro, I used it up. I pretty much, there's a lot of guitars, and they're all coming up and down in volume and moving around. That was one of the few things on the record that I actually mixed myself in terms of doing all the rides and stuff, because nobody but me would have been able to make sense of it, because it was just a lot of guitars all soloing and all being crazy, and it would have sounded like it was in disarray to anybody but me, but I organized it and stuff and made it sound like what it sounds like.
And it's a great groove.
It really is. But this was called the Talking Head song.
Yeah.
As a working title.
The reason it was called Talking Heads, my guitar part is definitely inspired by Talking Heads. Like
everything.
Those kind of quirky little things.
And the beats and the drums, too.
The beats and the bass line. His tone totally reminds me of Tina Weymouth's tone. Yeah, but it's more about the verse is like Talking Heads. The chorus isn't really anything like Talking Heads.
I remember at the birth of it that I picked up a bass that I never, ever play. It's this new bass that like was in the rack that someone gave. I never, ever play it. And I picked it up and just picked it up. I said, what does this bass do? And I just picked it up, started going boom, 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 boom.
That's what that bass did.
Boom, 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 and everyone fell in.
Yeah.
another thing where there's differences between two people that I like that we tried to do on this record that was part of my vision for it was that one person's staying in one place and the other person's moving. So like in the verses, Flea's playing boom bum bum boom bum bum boo doo 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 bum bum boom bum bum boo doo 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 bum bum. No chord changes, just a groove that stays in one place, what you call like a modal groove, and then I'm playing chord changes over that. And then in the chorus, it's the opposite. I'm playing a riff that stays in one place, and Flea's playing chord changes, and it wasn't a conscious thing. Like I said, the song just came from raw inspiration, but it was something I noticed from listening to it afterwards that he's staying in one place while I'm moving in the verse, and then I'm staying in one place while he's moving in the chorus, you know? And it's just those kind of little lessons of movement that to me like make music really fun to listen to, you know?
Death of a Martian, first of all, it's about a dog that Flea had for a long time that was obviously a very close family friend to your family,
yeah.
But was a kind of a weird pillar of love and happiness and strength when we got back together during the Californication era.
Yeah.
Because we were over at Flea's house in the garage working on music with John, who was new back in the band, and I was coming out of some pretty dark times, and you were also kind of going through some difficult periods. And then there was this kind of 200-pound dog who was just very chill and very calm and very loving, who was just there every single day.
Almighty.
Like sort of crashed out in front of the garage while we were rehearsing. And to me, it was very special. It was like she was sort of like our little spirit guide through that time.
Right.
And
even though she was bigger than any one of us.
And she was bigger than us.
She's even bigger than Chad.
About the same size as Chad. Yeah. About the same. And I just remember Martian being a very important part of that time of our lives.
Yeah.
And then when she became sick, I mean, she always had health problems, but when it was clear that she was dying, it was like I felt a huge sense of loss.
Right.
Not like painful tragedy, but it was just like, wow, this beautiful energy, this little angel, it's like time for her to be on her way.
Yeah.
And I felt like writing a song about her.
It's a real exciting song, and once again, the music, it came from a jam in the verses, then had a different chorus that we ditched, and John came up with that awesome chorus. And then John came up with that whole outro part, which is great, and which I started just doing a wild fuzz bass solo over at the end, which I'm really happy that I got to do.
Fuzz bass solo is always very exciting.
Yeah, and also we used the whole track as a rehearsal. That's when we set up and rehearsed, and that's the track that we used.
Oh, right.
We sang on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a rehearsal track, and so it's a live rehearsal track, and it's really fucking banging. It bangs.
Yeah, and the poem at the end was really one of those accidents. Because I just felt like it needed some kind of weird, Clinton-esque spoken word thing. Yeah. And I just grabbed sort of a random poem.
Yeah.
And the first time I did it, it fit exactly.
You didn't write the poem specifically for the track, you just had it?
No, I pulled it out of a book of poems.
So great you wrote a song about Martian. I was so happy that she's going to be immortalized in history.
Yeah.
She was such a great dog. She was just such a big, and she ate. I told one time we were watching TV, and she was just sitting there watching TV with me, and then she started going like, bah, 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 and threw up a whole wind-up toy that had been sitting in her stomach. She said, if we just eat anything, if we thought a human might possibly have anything to do with it, she would eat it. She was amazing.
Storm in a Teacup.
Storm in a Teacup.
Originally, working title, Public Enemy.
Started off with John just coming in with all the parts.
It's inspired by the same Public Enemy song that I was inspired by when I wrote the song Get on Top back in the old days. And it just goes to show the same song, the same groove in the same song meant something completely different to me, 7 years later that it did when we were making Californication.
Well, to me, I still think of the song, I call it myself, in my head, I call it Walking Like a Sauerkraut.
Right.
Yeah, because that's just my favorite lyric. Why you want to be walking like a fucking sauerkraut? What the hell's going on around you? What do you want from me? You're walking like a sauerkraut.
I think it's good to have some funny lines in songs, And this song has an element of absurdity to it.
Yeah, totally.
You may have noticed.
In the tradition of Nobody Weird Like Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it was another, another example of where I wanted to have these heavy metal choruses that were very simple, but still had a rhythmic feeling that might not be something that's happened before exactly.
There was some point when that song went from being very high on our list of numbers that we were thrilled to have to it sort of started dropping like a rock in a bucket. Do you remember that? I think John lost his enthusiasm for a minute.
Yeah. Well, I remember when we were voting for the songs.
Right.
And at one point you asked him to name songs he didn't care about.
And that was one of the ones he didn't care
Yeah,
about.
I hated when he just sang all those songs. It's terrible.
The songs he wasn't crazy about. And I don't know what happened.
It was hard to hear.
I mean, I felt a little bit responsible because he seemed to like it more before there were vocals. And the minute I had vocals, it became one of the songs he didn't like.
We have songs that I think were better songs than that were left off the album, but it has that atypical, that quintessential like Chili Peppers feeling to it that we thought would just be a strong feeling to include on the record. So that's why it's there.
I just feel like we all really contributed the best of who we are on this record, you know? And we managed to work together in a way where we really respected each other's opinions and stuff. So we get a good record out of the deal.
We really did. All right, enough said.
Enough said.